I'm a big believer in the MVP concept and how to utilize that. The biggest advantage you get from doing an MVP is it creates a bias to action, and then also, quite honestly, is you fail quickly, which is quite useful. And I think with the organization, what it was immediately focusing to the customer. When a company goes through some issues and some different spin-offs and some others, there's a tendency to get very internally focused, and you lose focus on that customer. I'm Jim Fagan, Chief Strategy and Revenue Officer at Global Cloud Exchange.
This is Code Story, a podcast bringing you interviews with tech visionaries who share in the critical moments of what it takes to change an industry and build and lead a team that has your back. I'm your host, Noah Lappard, and today how Jim Fagan revolutionized a company to enable the hungry bandwidth innovations of tomorrow. All this and more on Code Story. Jim Fagan has had a long and winding road into the tech world. He grew up in New Jersey and post-school started out in finance. Slowly, through those roles, he drifted towards operations and then eventually towards technology. Personally, he loves to be outside doing stuff that involves the water. He enjoys surfing, wakeboarding, skiing, you name it. Through his profession, he's traveled the world and visited many amazing places, including spending 9 years in Hong Kong. He found great pleasure in learning the cultures, personal and business, and how to reach out across languages to make connections. Jim found himself in an opportune position to join a company and not only bring it back to life, but to take advantage of a massive global connectivity solution, providing managed network services for over 140 multinational companies. The question he was hired to answer was, how do we combine infrastructure with software? This is the pivot story of Global Cloud Exchange.
Global Cloud Exchange started out 20 some odd years ago as a company called Flag, which built some of the first large subsea cable systems. And over time, they operated those in the Atlantic between the US and Europe, in the Mediterranean down to from Europe into the Middle East, across the Middle East and into India, as well as providing connectivity into Asia Pacific countries. And over time, the company evolved, became part of Reliance Communications in India, and then also ended up extending out and getting a managed services arm. So doing global enterprise network managed services. And so really kind of two diverse businesses, but you look back 10 years ago, it looks very diverse, but now converging. The company was spun off from Reliance about 3 years ago or 2 years ago, and went through a reorganization. And that's when I had the opportunity to join it, probably a little less than 2 years ago at this point, really to figure out, one, how to get the company back on its feet, but also to take advantage of an absolutely incredible global internet network connectivity infrastructure, as well as 140 multinational companies that we provide managed network services to. And really, how do we actually take that and combine infrastructure with software and really kind of become a major part of communications as things move to 5G and edge, and you look at gaming and content and streaming, really almost reimagining infrastructure into with a very heavy software play. So that's been the path we've been on for about the last year and a half, and it's been a really exciting journey.
So, I asked the question of, tell me about the MVP. So I guess MVP for you would be that, first version of turning the company around, right? Or the product offerings, or how you went about that. Tell me about that, MVP, so to speak, and what sort of tools you used to bring it to life and how long it took you to turn it around.
I'm a big believer in the MVP concept and how to utilize that. And I think, the biggest advantage you get from doing an MVP is it creates a bias to action. And then also, quite honestly, is you fail quickly, which is quite useful. So, If you look at it, it's kind of probably from two perspectives on how we looked at it. And I'll take it kind of from the turnaround of the organization, and then also, to follow up, Noah, on your question regarding product, because we are looking at how we revitalize our products and services, and while they go hand in hand, they're a little bit two separate journeys. And I think with the organization, what it was immediately focusing to the customer. When a company goes through some issues and some different spin-offs and some others, there's a tendency to get very internally focused, and you lose focus on that customer. And I think, as you develop products, that's a, kind of a blind spot that you can also fall into. And I've unfortunately fallen into that in my past. So I guess that's a learning, is where you get so into the feature functions or the internal aspects, you kind of forget why you're doing it or who you're doing it for. So really, it was a lot of fortifying our customer teams, communicating with our customers, making sure their services stayed robust, that we can meet their needs going forward, and rallying the company around that. I mean, obviously, we had to do some costs, some restructures, but also, again, doing that quickly, getting everybody aligned and pushing forward to that common vision. So, we were at a point where, literally 18 months ago, we were a negative cash EBITDA business. And we just announced our first half earnings for our fiscal year, which ended September of 2021. And for the trailing 12 months, we actually were able to turn a $95 million cash EBITDA. So it was quite a rapid turnaround. And now that's actually provided us the foundation to go, okay, now who do we become as the world of technology, as interconnectivity is getting more and more important, as latency is important, as people want to reach out to around the world. How do we play a bigger role in that? So how do we pivot to the product? And that's really been the focus over the course of the last year now, or 6-9 months, is what are we going to offer our customers?
Congrats on the turnaround. That's a massive turnaround. That's something to be really proud of, and it sounds like it's going to fuel the next round of growth. When you're looking forward into, well, I'd say even both. When you were doing the turnaround and then you've got to your successful EBITDA, what sort of trade-offs and decisions did you have to work through, as far as perhaps company or and we can get to the product in a minute, but perhaps company, what sort of decisions and trade-offs did you have to work through, and how did you cope with them?
To use a term you said earlier, a lot of coffee to stay on top of everything. But I think the biggest thing is focus. Is it's the realization when you're in that you can't you can't do everything for everyone, and you have to just own up to those trade-offs. So it was very much finding the balance of what was going to be the biggest return for the company to kind of get us back in financial stability, get us back to where we could regain our customers' trust. Or I don't think we ever lost the customers' trust, but there was a wariness as we went through this process. So how we were able to do that, and then what that meant is kind of leaving some stuff not behind, but some ideas where you would get ideas from the team. Maybe we should offer this product from this market, or we should try to fulfill this service request for a customer on the managed services side. And even though if you looked at it in isolation, it was a good idea, when you looked at the limited resources we had, where we had to position it, you had to make those trade-offs. And I think the big thing on that turnaround is kind of being clear-eyed about that, and understanding you can't do everything, and very much identifying the big rocks and pushing the focus of the organization towards those big rocks.
This episode is sponsored by Vanta. You're a startup founder. Finding product market fit is probably your number one priority. But to land bigger customers, you also need security compliance. And obtaining your SOC 2 or ISO 27001 certification can open those big doors. But they take time and energy, pulling you away from building and shipping. And that's where Vanta comes in. Vanta is the all-in-one compliance solution, helping startups like yours get audit ready and build a strong security foundation quickly and painlessly. How, you ask? Vanta automates the manual security tasks that slow you down, helping you streamline your audit. And the platform connects you with trusted vCISOs to build your program, auditors to get you through audits quickly, and a marketplace for essentials like pen testing. Join over 8,000 companies, including many Y Combinator and Techstars startups, who trust Vanta. Simplify compliance, and get $1,000 off at vanta.com/codestory. That's VANTA.com/codestory. This episode is sponsored by Kinsta. Between juggling client meetings, managing your website, and keeping up with everyday tasks, who has the time to stress out about website security? Well, with Kinsta, the technical stuff is taken care of, so you can focus on what you do best. Kinsta provides managed hosting for WordPress, offering lightning-fast load times, top-tier security, and unmatched human-only customer support. Whether you're a business owner, web developer, or running a digital agency, Kinsta makes managing your website easy and efficient. Kinsta provides enterprise-grade security, being one of the few hosting providers for WordPress with SOC 2 and other certifications, guaranteeing the highest level of security for your website. Thanks to their unlimited free expert-led migrations, Kinsta ensures a smooth transition for you from other hosting providers. Customers have reported 200% faster load times post-migration to their platform. What I find cool about Kinsta is their fast and reliable customer service and premium features that are included at no extra cost. Ready to experience Kinsta's hosting for yourself? Get your first month free when you sign up at kinsta.com today. That's KINSTA.com. So, how are you planning to move forward with the product? And my question kind of is centered around product progression and maturation, but I think to give context a little more, how are you going to build your roadmap? How are you going to figure out what is the next most important thing to build or to create or to pivot to with the product?
It's interesting because if you think about it, we have, kind of two very different pieces of our business that obviously we bring together for one, or for a product and service experience for our customers. So as I mentioned, on our enterprise side, a lot of software-defined networking, a lot of software-based solutions. But then we underpin that with a massive, the largest privately owned, Subsea network in the world, which is infrastructure. And we do have infrastructure in hard-to-reach places, as I mentioned earlier, to pretty much, we land in all the Middle East countries, into India. But so we have to balance that. So we look at it kind of from two perspectives. It's the first one is kind of, what products and services can we extend on top of that infrastructure? And then there's that question of where do we extend the infrastructure to, or where do we double down on the infrastructure in a region? And those are a lot bigger bets. But if you think about it, that becomes our foundation. So, we're looking at it from the perspective, and then from there, when you look at where do we want to put infrastructure, it really comes down to market trends, and where our customers want to be. So for our customers, it's some of the largest digital companies in the world that move their content, whether it's in content streaming, whether it's gaming customers, whether it's your largest FANGs. So there's a way, there's kind of a thing that we talk about is this kind of follow the data centers. So we look to kind of follow into region, the data centers of the hyperscalers, and where they're going is a first step for our infrastructure, because to make sure we connect. And then what we kind of feel like we can do really well for them is kind of fill out a bit of the capillaries. So the areas we can connect them into the markets where they don't want to do big investments, but they want to have a presence. And then from there, it's then talking to those customers and going, okay, to do that, what type of offerings do we have to have towards you at the edge? It has to be flexible bandwidth. Is there certain SLAs and latencies and failovers? Do you need data center space in our landing stations to put some of your equipment in? So it's, again, listening to the customer and kind of crafting that. And for us, it's that balance, that investment from that fixed infrastructure into that software layer. And one of the really exciting things for us is about a month ago, we were announced that we were acquired by a private equity infrastructure fund out of the UK called 3i. That transaction won't close for about another 6 months, just due to regulatory, but that'll be fine. But the exciting thing about them is they are coming in looking to invest in this business. They want to supercharge our growth in the infrastructure and our differentiation into the products and services. So right now for us, it's kind of, okay, we need to quickly get those defined. We need to understand what our trade-offs are on them, and then we want to accelerate them with the backing of our new owner.
So let's switch to team. So how are you going about building or adjusting or anything around team for this change, this revolution, and the product side? How are you going about building your team, and what are you looking for in those people to indicate they're the winning horses to join you?
It's interesting coming into an established organization, with a lot of great people, and it really has been. I've thoroughly enjoyed the ride with the people that I've had the opportunity to work with and that have been in this company. And I think, for the people that are kind of maybe in an organization and they've been doing things the same way for quite some time, you can't force them into something new. I think one, you have to take their feedback, you have to take it seriously because they've seen it. But then you have to provide that kind of external lens, saying, okay, this is why things have to change. I think a lot of it too is providing a bit more of that 3 to 5 year perspective, because a lot of times people are looking kind of straight at what's in front of them 6 months to a year, and it's hard to see the vision. So it's being very clear on the vision on who you want to be, and then continue to kind of work and monitor those people to see if are they joining, are they bringing in the vision. So for the internal piece, that's, I think, how you have to look at it. And then what you'll usually find, and we have, is there's some people who are very enthusiastic about it. And it's kind of probably ideas that they had already, but couldn't either surface up, or wasn't the right time at the company, or they weren't in the right position, et cetera. So it's identifying those, champions, for lack of a better term, and really, bringing them into it and letting them get their kind of creative juices flowing again, and bringing them part of the process. And then on the, the part overall, it's, because it is a bit of a particular niche that we're in with the Subsea and how you provide software on the optics above it. It's, it was going out and getting some people that I've had the pleasure to work with in the industry before, and actually have built successful products and services of this, and getting a few of those key people into the team. So those people that could kind of say, hey, I've done this roadmap before. I mean, obviously times change, technology change, the company's different, maybe some of the customers we want, but I've had some success. So I kind of know how we have to do this to an extent to provide a bit of that outside leadership. And it's bringing those two teams together and blending them.
This will be interesting. And I'm going to ask this as generically as possible and see where you go with it, Jim. So did you, or are you building this, are you executing this and building this to scale efficiently from day one, or are you going to be fighting this as you grow?
Ooh, that is a very good question. I think it's going to be, I think if you look at, our industry and the amount of bandwidth that we're going to attempt to push and the amount of global scale that we have, it's got to be built to scale from day one. So it has to have that capability and that vision. Which does, again, creates a whole nother set of trade-offs, because when you have to build that robustness in for scale, it adds costs and it adds complexity, which again is, that's the difficulty, because then you start to get into making sure that you have everyone in the organization aligned, whether it's your finance teams looking for a return, it's your investors, whether it's your peer set, because sometimes when you kind of build it to get it just out of the gate, you see some quick wins, but the pain, and I've felt this before, to go back and re-architect, it's not worth it. So it's a bit of, at least trying to understand. I think what we tried to do with this, and we have been so far, and I can say we've probably pivoted twice already. End state, we know what we we think what this thing should look like in 3 to 4 years, and what it will need to scale to and what it'll get to. And so that's always out on the horizon for us. But how we get there and what we prioritize, and maybe what region, what market, what customers, what feature functionality, we've probably pivoted 3 times in the last 12 months. It hasn't slowed us down because we work in sprints and in a software agile methodology, but we have kind of changed, I guess to put it this way is, we know the mountain we have to climb, and we're trying to make sure we bring all the right equipment with us. But the path on how we're getting up that mountain is constantly changing.
Well, as you step out on the balcony and you look across all that you've built, the turnaround, and what you're going to be doing with the product and the team, what are you most proud of?
Oh, wow. Now you're going to force me to reflect.
Okay. Welcome to Code Story.
Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate that. I think just we're at this point now, right? We've had an amazing turnaround, but it's just the start. So I think from that perspective, what I'm most proud of is really the team and the people in the organization, and it's everyone in the organization. I mean, to have a company that is coming out of financial difficulties with a brand new management team, with COVID, work from home globally, and we are a global distributed force. I mean, we have employees around the world, whether it's sales operations to support that. For everybody to stick to it, come in every day, believe in the vision, kind of put their head down and keep the progress going. And I kind of look back, I guess that's what I'm most proud of. I think it's been quicker, and the outcomes have been a lot better than I would have imagined. And I think that's really a credit to the team. And it's also, one of the things that drew me to the opportunity, though, is that it was a proof point as well that, it really was a great set of assets and a great set of customers. And with the right vision and the right motivation, there was really the ability to unlock that potential. So I think that's been, I guess, if you put it from that perspective, that's been the most rewarding aspect, is to be able to be a part of that and help unlock that, both from, what the capabilities of the company were, but what our people could achieve as well, and give our customers some great outcomes. So be able to help unlock that and see that, kind of come out and see those results come, and now kind of have us positioned probably a lot earlier than we thought to go take the next big investment and big plunge. That's been the rewarding part of the journey so far.
Well, let's flip the script a little bit. Tell me about a mistake you made and how you and your team responded to it.
We thought there was a near-term opportunity in our IP product set, and so we put a lot of resource into that early to try to create some rapid growth to that. And it turned out that the quick wins that we thought were there were not. But however, that is an important product set to us. So we got kind of caught back into that vice that I described earlier of going, hey, what do? We know we're going to need this in 2 to 3, in the next 2 years. And it's a lot harder, and there's more work to do now that we've kind of uncovered some more of where the challenges are and some of the things that we have to do and limited resources. So that was, just the mistake and we were able to pivot, which was good. And we are still kind of balancing it. We kind of slowed down what we're doing in that area. But really where the mistake was is, as a new management team, as a new leadership team, to rally the company around something and 3 to 6 months, later say, hey, I was wrong. You're worried about your credibility at that point in how you handle it. And, I think we just tried to be as transparent as possible. And also though, I do think it helped kind of land a new culture that, one, it's okay to make mistakes. And 2, if we do make a mistake, let's talk about it. Let's come up with a new plan and let's move forward. So, we probably cost ourselves, a decent amount of growth on some of our other products on that kind of 3 to 6 months that we kind of focused on the wrong problem.
Well, what does the future look like for the product, for the company, and for your team?
For the company, I think, for us, it's we are absolutely going to look to expand our infrastructure. So we'll be looking to expand our network footprint on a global basis, which is going to give our customers more options as they work with us, and we'll be able to get them into more places in the world and more markets. And that will be that's going to be an exciting process, and we're actually in some discussions pretty far down the track on a couple of those that we hope to execute next year on next calendar year, which is coming up quickly. So that's exciting. And then on a product perspective, it's really how do we bring together that kind of software layer of the network, where enterprises are down to our infrastructure, and how we tie that together and really begin to truly, take network infrastructure for Subsea and make it very cloud-like. That's one area where networking is still kind of, I think, lagged behind. It's still very manual. It's very point to point. The resiliency and everything has to be kind of bought up front versus a cloud model which is kind of a bit more on demand. I mean, network, it's a lot harder to lay fiber in the ground. It's definitely a lot harder to lay fiber in the ocean. So there's a limit on what you can do, but we think we can really unlock that, and particularly give the large content players around the world the ability to shift and manage their workloads to get to the markets where they need it, to leverage best their investments, and then I think also as you look towards the move to with our vast footprint and difficult to reach countries and places. I think we'll be able to play a critical role in, an edge in 5G for those markets, bringing that content to those markets and bringing it closer, and really being kind of the hub distributor. That's where we're looking to really take this over the course of the next few years. And then I think, what was the last part of your, because that was kind of a bit of the infrastructure and the product. I forgot the last part of your question, Noah. Was it on the people or the team? Yeah, the team. The team is. I think again, it's it's how do we, with that. I think it is. It's how do we, continue to move the team from that kind of, hey, let's just maintain what we're doing. Let's just keep doing what we're doing to continue that growth perspective, and then also, I'd like to see us behave a little bit more in market as a challenger. And just get more aggressive just on how we think, what we try to do to kind of push the boundaries of what we do in products and services and ideas. Because I think it's an area that has been a bit stagnant as far as new ways of thinking, new ways of working and providing services to customers. So I'm just hoping that it'll be a great opportunity for our current team and future team to really, be part of something that's growing, which I always think it's a heck of a lot more fun to be at something that's growing than not. That always creates opportunity and stuff where people feel challenged. So that's where I'm hoping that's the environment that we continue to build and the type of teams that we attract.
Well, let's switch to you, Jim. So who influences the way that you work? Name a person that you look up to and why.
The one, if I kind of think about it just from a business leader perspective, and it's the one that I look up to and respect, that I've really kind of looked at maybe the last, decade, which is, to me, I think it's one of the most impressive turnarounds around is Satya at Microsoft. Microsoft has always had, and I've worked with Microsoft, never worked for Microsoft, but with Microsoft in many different areas of my career, and the people and the technology and the talent, has always been incredible, but it was always a bit disjointed. Like it felt like you were dealing with 10 different strategies of that company, depending on when you were working. And the way he was able to get this, company, it's a massive, one of the largest companies in the world, and be able to turn that ship that quickly and get everybody aligned. And I've got to see that up close as being a partner with them, with Microsoft, with my prior experience at Telstra and with Rackspace, and seeing that pivot, and then seeing the people in Microsoft rally behind that, the customers get behind it, seeing become a much more kind of customer led on its products. To me, that's inspiring on how you do that. I haven't cracked that code yet, but when I look to how is from a more of a leader position, how you can transform a business, I just find how he's been able to do that fascinating and impressive.
Well, we talked about a mistake, but this is a little bit different spin. If you could go back to the beginning, what would you do differently, or where would you consider taking a different approach?
It's that old adage on stuff. It's and it's just, no matter how you think about it, it's I just wish I wish I make decisions faster. Not making a decision is making a decision in a way, because you put stuff off. And I've rarely ever been burned in my career at times by saying, wow, I moved too fast. I've made mistakes, absolutely. But that's where, but I think that's just the way you got to push forward. And then have conviction on it. Sometimes when you get too many voices, it questions your conviction. And I think it's finding that fine balance between, taking that input, obviously working that into your solution, being open to being moved off your spot. I think that's really key, but don't let that just bring into that process into a lot of self-doubt and paralyzation, being paralyzed. I think sometimes, particularly in the early days here when we were trying to get it, because, we really didn't want to make missteps because we had to get everything back on stable footing. I think there were some opportunities to move quicker where we'd actually be in a bit better shape today, where I just held back a bit too much. And so it is a bit, I think, about that. It's that kind of speed to decision, and, taking in input and influences, but, staying true to your conviction and moving on that conviction.
Well, last question, Jim. So you're getting on a plane and you're sitting next to a young entrepreneur who's built the next big thing. They're jazzed about it. They can't wait to show it off to the world. They can't wait to show it off to you right there on the plane. What advice do you give that person having gone down this road a bit? And it may have a little bit to do with what you just said, but we'll see where you go.
I think there's that part of it. And I think the other part is, again, it's just that you kind of hate to say it because it sounds so cliche on it. It's, it's going to be then about your customer and your market traction and your team. Like, those are the most important things to focus. If you understand who your customer is and your market is, and you got this, this person has that idea where they think they got it honed, stay on that, make sure you're communicating with them and build the right team around it. If you do that and you start to show some traction, everything else will come, right? Including the headaches of figuring out, how do I scale it? How do I hire this many people? How do I do it? But those are kind of the good headaches to have. Like when I used to kind of do more earlier in my career on the data center side, I'd have some people go to me going like, hey, what would you ever do if, one of your data centers filled up and you'd have the next one built? I'd be like, you know what? One of these days in my life, I'd really like to wake up with that problem. So it would be, I think it would be that. It would be like, just make sure you're getting buy-in from the market, what you're building's hitting that market, and you get the right team around you to support you, both from the aspect of doing the work, but people that you enjoy working with. Because you can be working on the greatest stuff in the world, but if you're not enjoying the journey with the people, I find it really hard.
That's great advice. Well, Jim, thank you for being on the show today. Thank you for telling your creation story of Global Cloud Exchange.
Great. Well, thanks for having me, Noah. I really enjoyed the time.
And this concludes another chapter of Code Story. Code Story is hosted and produced by Noah Labhart. Be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the podcasting app of your choice. Support the show on patreon.com/codestory for just $5 to $10 a month. And when you get a chance, leave us a review. Both things help us out tremendously. And thanks again for listening.
Now Taxes is 100% free when you file in the TurboTax app if you didn't file with us last year.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, just do your own taxes in the app by 2/18.
What if I have lots of forms?
All good, all 100% free.
What if I had 3 jobs?
Still 100% free.
What if I once saw Bigfoot?
That has nothing to do with taxes, so still 100% free.
Now that's what I'm talking about.
Now this is Taxes. See if you qualify in the TurboTax app. Excludes TurboTax Live, must start and file in app by 2/18.